let's dive right into this explainer and discover the actual secret behind why native English speakers sound so, well, effortless and fluid. Have you ever listened to someone speak English and just wondered how their sentences seem to roll right off the tongue, while yours might feel a bit rigid or maybe disconnected? Well, here's the truth. It's not about having a dictionary-sized vocabulary at all. It is all about a hidden layer of the language. Today, we're unlocking the native speaker's secret glue.
To see what I mean, just listen to the difference between speaking in choppy, robotic phrases versus smoothly connecting your ideas. Let's take two perfectly grammatical sentences. I was unwell. I did not go. It kind of sounds like a machine reading data, right? Now try simply adding the word since at the very beginning. Since I was unwell, I did not go. Boom. The entire rhythm changes, the meaning is instantly contextualized, it's smoother, it's faster, and it sounds infinitely more natural.
That magical little word, since, that's a conjunction. Now, hold on. I know what you might be thinking. Grammar terminology can be super dry. But I want you to think of conjunctions not as tedious grammar rules, but as the essential toolkit that holds everyday conversations together. They are literally structural bridges. Without them, we're basically stranded on these little islands of short, isolated thoughts. But with them, we build high-speed highways of fluent communication. So here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, the secret to fluent English. Second, adding and contrasting ideas. Third, giving reasons and results. Fourth, conditions and time constraints. And finally, number 5, native speaker phrase hacks. Let's get right into it.
All right, section 1. The secret to fluent English. Pattern recognition over memorization.
Let's start with the absolute fundamental secret to fluent English. We're going to focus on recognizing patterns rather than just rote memorization. Listen, you don't need to memorize a textbook to sound fluent. You really just need to understand how certain words behave in a sentence. Fluency is all about the connections. If you can take the vocabulary you already possess and bridge it together fluidly, you're going to immediately sound like a much higher level speaker. Like I said, it's all about the glue. Moving right along to section 2. Adding and contrasting ideas. Grouping similar concepts. We all constantly need to say things like also or but, right? Yet relying on just those two little words gets repetitive really fast. What's super interesting here is how we can organize 5 confusing words that all essentially mean also or to, but they actually have strict rules. For instance, also is generally for positive sentences and slots right into the middle. But look at either. It's exclusively used in negative sentences and always goes at the very end. So instead of awkwardly saying, I also don't like fruits, a native speaker would say, I don't like fruits either. And notice even, it goes right at the beginning. Even I am a good person. Just recognizing these simple placement patterns is honestly half the battle won. Now, let's talk about a word you probably use every single day, but. You already know but means however, obviously, but native speakers frequently use it to mean except or even rather, which totally transforms the sentence. For example, saying I can eat anything but chicken actually means except chicken. Or this is not a pen but a pencil. That means rather. Grasping these alternate everyday meanings totally expands your vocabulary without you having to actually learn any new words. How cool is that? Let's see how this builds when we start contrasting complete thoughts. You can pair words like although and yet to create these really powerful, balanced statements. So you can start a sentence with a concession, like even if he never went to school, and then you balance it right on the other side with yet he knows everything. You can basically mix and match these sides. Although I don't have money, still, I will help you. It creates a beautifully complex, native-sounding sentence structure that just flows. Okay, on to section 3. Giving reasons and results, explaining the why. Next up, we really need to know how to give reasons and explain results without relying on the exact same words every single time. Look at these 4 words. They all basically mean the exact same thing in context, but following specific placement rules for them instantly makes your English sound highly polished. You've got options, but placement is absolutely crucial. Since belongs right at the beginning of a sentence. Because belongs directly in the middle. If you use for to mean because in the middle of a written sentence, you have to place a comma right before it. And as? Well, it's super versatile. You can throw it at the start or in the middle. It's exactly these tiny mechanical details that separate intermediate speakers from truly advanced ones. And what about the result side of things? Well, whenever you want to express a result, you can easily swap out basic words for any of these great alternatives. Instead of always defaulting to, I was unwell, so I didn't come, try something like, I was unwell, hence I didn't come. Or maybe, I was unwell, therefore I didn't come. It immediately adds so much variety and sophistication to your everyday speech. All right, here is a highly specific, advanced rule. A real game changer. Whenever you use the word lest to say, in case something bad happens, you must pair it with the verb should. This is a fantastic little hack. Step 1, state your action. Work hard. Step 2, add lest. Step 3, you absolutely must use should for the subject that follows. Work hard, lest you should fail. It translates perfectly to those moments when you want to warn someone in case things go totally wrong. And trust me, it sounds incredibly distinguished. Which brings us to Section 4, Conditions and Time Constraints, structuring the when and if. Now, expressing conditions and time constraints often trips up learners who are trying to translate directly in their heads, and this right here is a massive trap you want to avoid. Even if the action is happening in the future, the clause right after as soon as must stay in the present tense. If you want to say, as soon as he will come, I will leave, actually, scratch that. That is a classic direct translation error. The rule is super strict. It must be, as soon as he comes, I will leave. The first part basically locks into the present tense, even though we're talking about a future event. This next table brilliantly illustrates a key difference. You use until or unless when you're setting a strict negative boundary, but you switch to phrases like as long as for positive durations. For example, a negative boundary would be something like, don't eat until I come. But if you're talking about a positive parallel timeline, you gotta switch it up. As long as you are here, I will stay. Honestly, just understanding the difference between a negative condition and a positive duration makes your conditional sentences completely bulletproof. For actions that happen back to back, you just have to strictly memorize these pairs. Hardly always goes with when, and no sooner always goes with than. These are used when one thing happens literally right after another. Hardly had I reached the station when the train left. You absolutely cannot mix them up. You can't say no sooner had I reached when. No way. It is a rigid lock-and-key grammar structure, but once you've got it memorized, it makes you sound highly, highly proficient. Finally, Section 5, Native Speaker Phrase Hacks, the Conversational W Family. All right, let's unpack the ultimate climax of our toolkit, the native speaker phrase hacks that are going to totally transform your conversational flow. This is where we get into the really fun, everyday stuff. If you are translating from Hindi and struggling to find the exact dramatic emphasis for certain thoughts, the answer lies in the W family expressions. When you passionately want to say, yahi baat to main keh raha tha, which means this is exactly what I was saying, translating that word for word feels incredibly clunky. But guess what? Native speakers have a designated built-in shortcut for this exact emotion. Native speakers constantly rely on these dynamic little phrases to add emphasis, directly pointing to a thing, a person, a place, or a method. It's like a linguistic pointing finger. If you're talking about an issue or a thing, you say, that's what. If you're pointing at a person, that's whom. A place, that's where. And a specific method or way of doing things, that's how. Saying this packs so much more punch and natural rhythm than awkwardly trying to explain that you finally found the specific object you wanted. I mean, instead of saying, this is the exact thing that I've been searching for, you just snap your fingers and say, that's what I was looking for. It's just so punchy. Or for a place, that's where we met. Or for a method, that's how I learned cricket. It is literally the ultimate shortcut to sounding conversational and relaxed. And here is our final magical hack for today. By simply borrowing the auxiliary verb and combining it with so or neither, you immediately sound like someone who has been speaking English their entire life. Instead of agreeing by saying a boring "I also do that," you flip it. You take the helper verb of the exact sentence they just said. You come, so does he. Or for a negative, I couldn't go, neither could I. I didn't ask, nor did he. It creates this snappy, echo-like response that is a true hallmark of native dialogue. So look, fluency is really just knowing how to connect your words together. We've covered everything today from swapping out basic conjunctions to utilizing those super dynamic W family hacks. The toolkit is yours now. So my question for you is, the next time you speak, are you going to try replacing a boring also with an even, or maybe drop a perfectly timed that's what? The choice is totally yours. Step out there, keep connecting those thoughts, and I'll see you in the next explainer.